Hello, corporate badasses. I'm excited to be here with you again live this week as part of my Summer of Magic Leadership Series. Through this series, I am celebrating the magic of women getting themselves into higher level leadership positions. And before I get into that, I want to describe to you a little bit about my definition of magic and how I see it. And when I think about a magic trick, something like a magician that is on stage. Actually, we watch a lot of America's Got Talent, and you have this idea that they know what they're doing, right? That there's a method behind the magic, that there's a process, right? Even if I don't know what that process is, I know that they're doing something. It didn't just like happen poof, but yet you get that feeling that feeling of, oh my gosh, that just happened. That was amazing, right? And so how I am defining magic and the reason that I'm doing part of this series is because there is work that the women inside of my leadership table and my women's leadership accelerator programs, that I am leading them through a step-by-step process that is creating opportunities seemingly as if by magic. And sometimes people from the outside can say, oh, they got lucky, or, oh, they were in the right time, right place. And a lot of what we're doing is we're putting ourselves into those right time, right place circumstances so that we can reap the rewards. And another reason why I'm doing this series in the middle of the summer is because the summer is typically a downtime for a lot of people, a time of transition, a time where, we sort of are like, you know what, I'm not going to focus on work. I'm going to focus on my family, or I'm going to take vacations, or I just need a little bit of space or catch up time. And I think all of that is a really important opportunity to reflect and to go inside, but to also remember that big things can happen for your career, even during the summer, even while you're taking time for your family or space to think. That's actually when the magic happens. And so I'm here for you in the month of July to remind you that it is not only possible to advance in your career during these times of the year, but it's actually part of the formula. So I'm here with an incredible guest today, and we're going to talk about her magical career journey. And also, if you're here with us live, hi, Marie. Thanks so much for saying hello. Definitely say hi to us. We can see the chat, and perhaps let us know where you're tuning in from. It's really great. We have a really global network, and it's inspiring and also challenging to see that women all over the world are facing the same challenges that we in America are facing. And it's really, that's also part of the collective wisdom that we can all work together to help people rise up and to get the recognition and influence that they already deserve. So Tarran, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today.
Hi, Stacy. Good to be here.
Introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Tarran Pierfelice, calling in from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm currently the Chief Commercial Officer of a company called Solistic, which is based in outside of Brussels in Belgium. And what my team and our company is doing is we're really trying to enable drug developers to manufacture allogeneic cell therapies that can cure cancer and other types of nasty diseases that are plaguing people all over the world. And if you haven't been impacted directly, you most likely know someone that does. And so we're trying to provide technologies and services to make these therapies and bring them to patients as soon as possible and at an affordable price.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm always in awe. And if you go back and you watch some of the previous interviews as part of the series, you'll see that I'm kind of gush over all my clients. But just when I hear you talk about the work that you're doing and at your company, and then to see you being in the C-suite and at the forefront of that work, is just like, this is why I do everything I do. So I'm so grateful for you and your leadership, and that that your willingness to raise your hand, to step up, to even like go for this job, right? And like, this is all such a big deal. So let's just start with some of this. Oh, Christy says hi. Christy is our connector. Christy's actually been a part of this interview series in the past as well. And so it's a big, small world that we're living in. So let me just ask you the magical question. Do you believe in magic, and what is magic to you?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I do believe in magic, and I think it's also mixed in with a lot of work that you do behind the scenes and preparation, but also there is some element of being in the right time and right place. But that element of preparing and being ready for that opportunity when it arrives is kind of the work that needs to be done, and I do think that there is magic, but there's a lot of homework and preparation to be ready for that magical moment to grab onto it when it presents itself.
Yeah, and it happens so quickly, right? It's like, oh wait, I should return this phone call like now, or
Yes.
I have to stop everything and walk through this door. Is like how I describe it, right?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I was doing some reflection ahead of this LinkedIn live cast, and I was just thinking through some of the inflection points in my career, and it is kind of crazy because when it happens really fast, and you're kind of like, "Is this happening to me? Like, how did this happen?" But if you really do sit back and think about it, you did the work to get there.
Uh,
You had put yourself in the best position possible to receive the magic, and so I was just doing some reflection on a few of those inflection points in my career. I think most recently, taking this new role at Solistic. I've been in the role for a little over four or 5 months. And so I was just thinking back about that magical moment that happened in January when the interviews were happening. And so I think, a lot of things that everything I had been doing to prepare and didn't know I was preparing for this role. But when it came into my lap, I remember I was interviewing with one of the board members and they said, I feel like your whole like professional journey has really led you up to this role. Like everything that you've done and you've touched has kind of created this skill set or these experiences or this network or this knowledge that we need in this company at this time. And so you don't know it when you're doing it. You know you're working for something bigger and more impactful, but sometimes you can't control when it happens to you. But you do have I think, a lot of actual influence on this and being ready for when the opportunity presents itself. So yeah, I think there is magic. I look forward to more magic. I look forward to spreading
exactly.
magic
Bring
to
it.
all the wonderful
Exactly.
people listening in today and to all of our networks because it does exist.
Yeah, and one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking, the next question is about some of your secrets to success, and you touched on it a little bit, but I think for a lot of people where promotions come easily, and you just sort of like you kind of blow it off as not really something that you did except for the hard work and being good at your job and so on. But I know part of our process was naming what you were good at, right? If you're going to be interviewing and showing up as this person who it seems like everything is aligned for you to do this role, right? You have to be able to articulate that and communicate that and name what it is that you're good at and what value you bring to your organization so that they can see it, so that they can respond. And I know that was some of the work, but can you share with us some of your secrets to success, if it's part of that naming or other aspects of your career that have led you to this success?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I definitely think that at least, and I still deal with this too, is second guessing yourself or thinking, you're not ready for the role. It's too far. It's so out of reach. And I think some of the coaching that we've done together, Stacy, and obviously having a strong network is that if you're a good fit for a role. You can tell, you do your research, and so you really just need to show up and present that confidence and be able to articulate it. And so that doesn't just happen overnight. You need to practice and practice and
Hmm.
practice. And so I think, one of the things that I had done that helped me, land my dream role essentially, is that it wasn't the first round of interviews that I had done. It wasn't the first time someone had seen my resume. And so there was probably about 4 or 5 months of prep work that was going into being ready for that right fit for me and for the company. And so it doesn't happen overnight. You're practicing your doing some coaching calls with you, Stacy, getting some feedback. And some of the interviews I didn't make it past, whatever round, and for various reasons. But it made me stronger and better, ready to tackle when it really mattered for the role that I really wanted to go after. So I guess my secret is if you're thinking about making a move, at least outside or even internally, is don't let that interview be the first time you described your value to someone. Practice it with a trusted friend or a colleague, a coach, even a mentor or a boss that's supporting you. So that would be my advice, is practice. Don't think you can just wing it. You can wing it after you've practiced it probably 7 or 8 times, right? So that's kind of my advice, is do the prep work ahead of time, because you don't know when you're going to bump into someone at a networking event and they're like, oh, hey, like, I have a role. Why don't you, come in tomorrow and let's interview for it. So you have to be ready. So do the prep. Make sure you want to convey confidence. So make sure you're doing the homework so that you feel confident in delivering that communication about your value that you bring to the job.
I love that. And, when I'm working with clients, there's a couple of different things. One is just literally like telling your story. Inside my book, I have a leadership style exercise. My book is Promotions Made Easy, a step-by-step guide to the executive suite. And I talk about how most women haven't articulated their leadership style out loud ever before. And inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator, and because you talked about practicing and getting coaching, I think it's the best of both worlds. So this is my membership program. It's a month-to-month membership where you can come in, and you could come in just for a couple of months and join us and just practice some of your storytelling out loud. What do I say at these interviews? But then what I think the sweet spot is that I'll give you feedback on that as well. And so then, some of the things that people don't realize is, when you're tapped into a network, and even you're tapped into a greater network, you're talking to executive leaders all the time. And so what you think you're good at may not be valuable to them, right? And so it's that sweet spot. And this is where the coaching, I think, really comes in, is like being able for me to say, hey, I actually think your value is over here. Let's kind of tweak your story a little bit, because sometimes we're sharing and we're like so enthusiastic and we're like, I do all of these amazing things. And the person who's receiving it is like, okay, well, but I need someone to do this. Right. And so being able to anticipate that and add that into your story. And so, Marie, if you don't mind putting the link to join us inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator, I just want to take a second and invite anybody who's listening. I really think it's like this, incubator training ground to be able to not only practice these stories, but get better at sharing and articulating our value.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. It's Stacy, some of the stuff that we had done when I was preparing was definitely that feedback. And sometimes it's just small little tweaks too, that kind of, you're elevating the communication, you know it, and you feel more confident. And so I think that's one of the things I really enjoy working with you about is having somebody who knows you good and well enough that they can help you tweak it, and they know your story so that you're actually conveying the story much more crisper and clearer. Yeah. And it resonates at that like leadership level, right?
Yes, totally. All right. So speaking of leadership, and I already told you how impressed I am by your career and also how well-deserved it is. And I'm so excited for you in this new role. I know you've only just begun, but even just in the 4 or 5 months, you've made such an impact already at this organization. So I want to ask you about why you personally feel motivated to have a voice at the table.
Yeah, it's a good question. And, I was thinking about this, and for me, a seat at the table isn't about like egos and hierarchy. Like I could care less about that. It's really about having impact. And so, I've really, throughout my career, I think what's, kind of my, special superpower is that, I can understand the intersection of business and science and really help translate that into like winning commercial strategies. And especially in very tough markets. The stuff that we do in cell and gene therapy is not easy. It's the first time. And so, you have to also be a bit resilient in that. And so what I've learned along the way is that the commercial perspective at any organization needs to be part of the early part of the conversation. And so what I had seen in the past is that decisions were being made at the higher level, and they were, and I don't think it was on purpose, but we're kicking the can, down the street in terms of like, we'll figure out how to sell it later, or we'll figure out how to position this in the market, right? It's like, we build it, they will come. And so, what I really realize is that commercial input had to be part of the conversation earlier so that we were developing the best product, the best service, because the last thing you want is something that you can't, like, doesn't bring value, right? You hadn't thought about asking those commercial questions as part of a fully rounded discussion at the leadership table. And so for me, having a seat at the table is being able to bring that perspective, to drive that discussion, to challenge the team, to make sure we're positioning the product, the service the best way possible, and ultimately to benefit patients because of the line of work that we're in, but also to enable the organization to grow. And so I saw that as a gap coming up through the ranks. And I realized that I could fill that gap. And that's really why I want to have the seat at the table. And I do have a seat at the table now. And it's great. It's a lot of responsibility. And you also have to be like making sure you're aligned with everybody before you actually go into the meeting with your commercial perspective. But I think that is, why I'm at the table, why I want to be at the table. And I know that there's other people that have a similar skill set, and I encourage them that if they think they can fill that gap in their organizations, they should really shoot for going after that, or looking for an organization where they can bring that intersection to the table. Because I have seen organizations struggle with thinking, oh, we'll just figure out how to sell it later. And that's just doesn't work. And I don't think it sets a company up for success.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think anybody listening who also, one thing I really admire about you is in your previous role, which was not necessarily always at the table. I think sometimes you were invited, sometimes not, right? It was like hit or miss, right? And so, in that role, I remember you still showing up with these ideas and pushing, and challenging and really kind of thinking in this broader way, even if you weren't able to execute on it always because you didn't have the impact or the support that you needed to be able to execute on it. But now to be able to see that all come together. But for those of you listening, if you're not in that position, if you're not already in the C-suite and you don't already have that seat or that voice at the table, encouraging you to think more broadly, right? How can we bring this in early and often? So I really appreciate that perspective and you sharing that with everyone today.
Absolutely. Happy to share. And I think if anyone has any questions or wants to chat more, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Happy to network.
Perfect. Anything else that you want to share with our audience before we head out today?
No, well, just one thing. Stacy has caught on to something here about the lull in the summer, and I think also the lull at the holiday time, which is kind of when I found my job. And so, really take advantage of this time when other people aren't thinking about the next step. They're like, oh, I'll just wait till after Labor Day. This is the time to attack. This is the time to put yourself out there.
Yes.
Because other people are distracted with other things. And if you're focused on this, this really can happen for you. You can get a promotion, a new job, whatever you're trying to put out there, you'll definitely get it back, and take advantage of the summer for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tarran. Thank you so much. I hope to see some of you inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator. If you're already inside of our community, please let everyone know and say hi, and share this with your friends, any colleagues or anybody else that you think could benefit from both this interview and also the work that we're doing to get ourselves that recognition, power, and influence that we already deserve. Thank you, Tarran. I'm so grateful for your leadership and your wisdom today.
Thanks, Stacy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.